A final farewell today. Family and friends of two victims killed in that fatal commuter rail crash hold memorial services. A total of 6 were killed. The scene in Dobbs Ferry, New York, outside the funeral for Ellen Brody, the driver of that SUV that stalled on the tracks, triggering Tuesday's tragedy. Hello everyone, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York. Within the hour, ABC's Linsey Davis heard from political officials and spoke one-on-one with the NTSB conducting their investigation. She is joining us now from Valhalla, New York, on this. And Linsey, I want to ask you then, Senator Chuck Schumer from New York and Senator Richard Blumenthal, what did they have to say?
Yeah, the politicians just wrapped up their press conference just a little while ago, and their main point was that education is key, that essentially the public needs to know, and Ellen Brody perhaps didn't realize, that the crossing gates are made out of fiberglass, that they're designed and constructed to give way to a car. So if anyone were to find themselves in that kind of predicament, that you could just simply reverse, and they're designed to give way to the car.
What exactly then did the NTSB say? Because I know that they've been conducting investigations with the engineer and also with other members that were on board that train.
Right, so they had the interview with the engineer yesterday. He was able to say that he actually observed the car driving onto the track, that at that point he started to immediately apply the brakes and then started to honk the horn for 4 seconds, but of course it was too late. Now today they've conducted an interview with the train's conductor, and we're waiting to be briefed on exactly what he had to say. And we know that they've been able to get all the data from the train's recorders, and they've been able to determine that everything seemed to be functioning properly as far as the flashing lights and the crossing gates and all the different forms of alarm and alerts that warn someone that the train is about to cross, that all seemed to be functioning. So at this point, there seem to be 2 primary focuses of the investigation. One, why did Ellen Brody drive her car onto the track? They're looking at the fact that her Mercedes SUV seemed to be new. They have a question, was she completely comfortable operating the car and familiar with the car's controls? They're also going to be looking into her cell phone records, which is pretty standard operating procedure, but see, perhaps she was distracted at the time. The other interesting angle here is that this third rail seems to be unique to Metro North's railroad system, and they want to know why it was able to puncture the cars, and as they say, determine the car's crash worthiness.
And Linsey, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned this at the very beginning there, about those actual crossing signals there, those fiberglass signals. The reason why that there is so much attention being placed on those, in fact, that you pointed out that they are made of fiberglass, and in fact that you could pull away from them, because aren't we hearing eyewitnesses, and we're trying to piece together exactly what Ellen Brody might have done, what got her out of the car and then back into the car, even though those guards were down on top of it?
Exactly. So let's backtrack for a moment and just say there was an accident, a car accident on Tuesday night, that the traffic was then diverted onto Commerce, which is a street that has the railroad crossing, okay? So number one, this may have been an unfamiliar route that she was taking. Number two, because all this traffic was being diverted, at least according to one eyewitness, he says that traffic was quote unquote inching along. So if we can imagine, and as I spoke to one of the board members just a few moments ago, from the NTSB, he's suggesting that based on witness accounts that the cars were back to back, essentially bumper to bumper, as they were crossing over the railroad tracks. And so there's a chance that if what witnesses are saying is true, that she simply got caught with her front wheels on the verge of crossing the tracks when that crossing gate came down. So the gentleman who was behind her says that she got out of her car, touched the crossing gate, and then not as to move it, but just touched it, then got back in her car. And at that point, he says there was a moment of, pause, and then that's when she drove forward. And so it may just be, and he says he backed up to give her room to back up. It may just be that she didn't realize that this gate was made out of fiberglass and that she could simply back into it.
And Linsey, what's compounding all of this, and you've been pointing out as well, is that this very unique third rail, the system that propels the whole train on the track there, that's now being looked at by investigators, potentially making this accident even more dangerous and destructive of what it was, because it actually pierced into that front car.
Right, and there are a number of concerns with that. Number one, about 239 people die each year in train accidents, but often it's the person who is on the tracks, and it's very rare that people actually die inside of the passenger cabin. And so one thing that's disconcerting here is that the third rail by nature is designed that once it lifts up off of the track, that it would no longer be electrified. So that's one issue here. And then the other, that the cars were actually able to be punctured. So a number of moving parts that they're still trying to piece together and figure out why this ended up so tragically.
The investigation ongoing. ABC's Linsey Davis in Valhalla, New York. Linsey, thank you for that. You can keep up with this story in real time, downloading the ABC News app and starring the story for exclusive updates on the go. For now, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York.